Hello and welcome to Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, August 29th, 2017. As always, we are coming live from the W4CY studios here in West Palm Beach, Florida, and I hope all of your weeks are going well. This week, well, if you haven't been watching the news, it has been Hurricane Harvey all over the place, and it has been a catastrophe. It hit Texas as a Category 4. And apparently there's massive floodings all over. Every time I turn on the TV, it just looks like the whole area is submerged underwater, and it is shocking. We are very lucky, at least in our area. I know Florida also has is prone to flooding, but you know, we gotta, you know, it's just so devastating to watch so many homes and so many neighborhoods, you know, wiped out in these catastrophic storms. But you know, this is part of life, and I don't know how many deaths there are. I don't know how many injuries. I really haven't been following it too much. It's you know, it's one of those things that if you're a Floridian, you're used to this. This is something we know about devastation, especially when it comes to hurricanes. But you know, if you're not familiar with hurricanes, you know, hurricanes, depending on how fast they move, how slow they move, is really and how strong the winds are, especially inside the hurricanes, is what causes a lot of the devastation. Are the little tornadoes. Yes, the heavy rainfalls, the flooding, the winds, but there's a lot of little tornadoes that happen inside of a hurricane that a lot of people don't know about, and that's what does a lot of the damage. You know, people get crazy, and I'm hoping, I really do, I'm hoping that, you know, in Texas, you know, I understand when people go crazy sometimes, you know, when the power gets knocked out, when there's no food, there's a shortage of water, food, and gas, you know, and people want to loot, people want to fight, people, you know, do a lot of crazy things in a lot of situations like this. So I'm really hoping that there's very minimal of this. But let's take a moment and send a little light and hopefully that people of Texas get the help that they need. I know there's a lot of donations thing. If you go to if you follow the social media, I know that Facebook and a lot of Google and everything has already added donation buttons and stuff. But you could also go down there if you don't feel like donating money. You can also go down there and help people if you want. I know a lot of people do that. But if you want to give us a call tonight, give us a call at 561-623-9429. Web chat us on the W4CY.com website. Download the W4CY radio app. And as always, the archive will be on YouTube at youtube.com/Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. Also, we are streaming live for the first time on Facebook Live. I don't know if I'm actually doing it right, but if I am, hello everyone on Facebook, and hopefully this will be. I want to also join Periscope too, but I got to see how if I'm gonna be able to do Facebook Live and Periscope at the same time. But hopefully your guys' week has been going well. Other than the hurricane, what has been going on with you guys? How's everything going? You know, the write-ins were slow this past week, and so I know sometimes when things go off, sometimes we take our attention, but please write in. Make sure you do. The email will be at the show, at the end of the show. Tonight is all about Crohn's disease. You know, this is becoming a very popular, unfortunately, a very popular disease in America, and Like I said, I can never speak for any other country other than America because this is where I live in, but Crohn's disease is on the rise. In fact, the last time I did this show a couple of years ago, it was over 700,000 people who suffer from Crohn's disease. And now, just a couple of years later, it is over 850,000 people that suffer from Crohn's disease. So this is an alarming number that we have to pay attention to. This is something that can be very crippling. This is something that can be very devastating. And if we don't get a hold of it, this brings on cancer. This brings on so many other things. And this can be prevented. I know that this show, mostly of the time, we do a lot of spiritual stuff. We do, a lot of helping with the mental, but the physical is just as important. And this is why I also do it. And we're going to start incorporating, like I said before, we're going to start incorporating more alternative medicine shows. I feel that this is a necessity for people who want to do the whole mind and body wellness. This is something that is very, that needs to be controlled. This is something that we all need to be aware of. Even if we don't have Crohn's disease, this is something that we could be prone to. This is something that anybody can develop due to poor eating habits. And here in America, we know how much there's a McDonald's on every other corner. There's a Wendy's on every other corner. It's easy to go to Taco Bell late at night at 3 o'clock in the morning when there's nothing on. But where are the healthy food stores? And if you do have a healthy food store like Whole Foods, you're paying so much money. So we are really in a situation here in America where, where health is not, should be number one, but it's not. And the people who can afford to be healthy are the people that have money. But I truly believe that everybody should have the rights to health. That everybody should have a right. A salad should not cost $10 to $12. It shouldn't. And then a cheeseburger should not cost $1. And you got to think about these things when coming into the choice. If you're hurting for money. And me being an entrepreneur, sometimes money is great, money's flowing in, and I can do anything and everything I want. And other times I'm scraping the counter and I'm like, oh, geez, so what is it, mac and cheese, ramen noodles today? What's it going to be? And for a lot of us, this is the everyday choice that we face. And Crohn's disease is very popular. It's on the rise because of these factors. First let me start off by identifying what Crohn's disease is. Crohn's disease is an inflammatory bowel disease. It's IBD, and that's where it starts. It's basically an abnormality of a regulation of the immune system. It's basically triggered by pathogens. A lot of people think that pathogens actually end up into our gastrointestinal tract, and what ends up happening is they become unregulated, and then the inflammation becomes unregulated, and then tissue destruction starts happening. This, like I said, this is an inflammatory condition of the gastrointestinal tract. The CD affects mostly the end of the small bowel, which is the end of the small intestine, which is the ileum. It's in the right lower abdomen section of the body, and really Crohn's disease can kind of be anywhere. And this is what makes Crohn's disease so painful and so hard, is that it could start in one area or it can start in another part of the body, and it just spreads like wildfire. You got to think of inflammation, and we're going to get into inflammation in a second, but you got to think of inflammation as something almost like an untamed fire. And actually the very first show I did on the Crohn's disease was actually called that, The Untamed Fire of Crohn's Disease. And why did I call that? Is because it can get out of control very quickly. And if you or a loved one has Crohn's disease, then you know how painful this disease is. The GI tract does start, if we're not familiar with a little, I'm not going to get too technical here because I know a lot of people don't have anatomy or physiology, they don't have background medicine. And one of the things that I hate is before I got into school and I got my master's and all my degrees and everything and oriental medicine and stuff, is when people try try to talk and use these big words. So I'm going to simplify everything. I'm going to make everything sound so easy for you that anybody can understand. And if there's something that you don't understand, please, call us in or web chat us on the website and or write us in. But, I want to make it simple so that everybody has a chance to understand. So the GI tract starts in the mouth and ends in the anus. That includes the esophagus, the stomach, the whole small intestine, the whole large intestine, and the colon, and the anus. And so this whole tract can become infected or come inflamed in Crohn's disease. And a lot of people will also think that a lot of times that it's just maybe the small intestine, or maybe it's just the part of the stomach, or maybe it's both, but it can start out anywhere. Like I said, the most popular part is going to be the ileum, which is the right quadrant corner of the abdomen, or right lower quadrant of the abdomen. And so basically a lot of times it starts out as pain there, and a lot of people confuse it with appendicitis because appendicitis is sort of in the same area. It causes pain, it causes it just burns, and so a lot of people get it confused that. So if you start having pain there, don't freak out right away, but like I said, get it checked and everything. But what ends up happening is these ulcers, when inflammation starts to happen, these pathogens get in, because our immune system is amazing. Our immune system is here to try to protect against pathogens, to protect against viruses, and to keep us well, because what's the main part of our body is us to survive at any cost, and it will do that. And so what happens is through poor eating habits and poor environmental factors, and you know what, I'm going to get into the genetic part in a little bit, but if you've been listening to the show, I'm not a big fan of really genetics. I even if we all have a predisposition of genetics, but that really is triggered by what we choose to do on a day basis. So I'll give you that lecture in a little bit. But what's ended up happening is these ulcers start to appear, and these ulcers appear in the GI tract, and really what ends up happening is the wall starts to break down, and as the inflammation starts to happen, the immune system's job is to try to fix it. It wants to combat it. It wants to be able to fix it and say, hey, let's get this pathogen out of here. Let's get this, whatever is causing this pain, let's get it out. And so what it does is it causes an immune response. And what ends up happening in Crohn's disease is the immune system doesn't shut off. It starts producing inflammation, it starts producing heat, and it starts producing the antibiotics and everything to fight the pathogens. But what ends up happening is, like I said, it doesn't shut off, and when it doesn't shut off, the body keeps attacking it, and then the ulcers remain. This is a lot of times, a lot of people will consider that the CD is an autoimmune disease, but it's not, and we're going to get into that in a little bit. But I want to make it very clear that it's not the same as ulcerative colitis. It's very similar, but I'm having trouble with my words today. Ulcerative colitis is affected just in the colon, basically in the large intestine. We have a small intestine and we have a large intestine in our abdomen. That's where it affects. And CD can affect anywhere along the GI tract. But ulcerative colitis is an autoimmune disease, and that is triggered by itself. That's when an autoimmune disease is really triggered by, it attacks itself. It thinks that, it's the white blood cells and everything are foreign pathogens, and it attacks itself and causes problems. And that's a popular misconception. But before we get deeper into Crohn's disease, the main thing I want to look at, and this is very important to all health, is inflammation. And this is why I want to talk about, inflammation, is because this is so important. Because a lot of us think that, inflammation would be good because, when we hurt ourselves, when we sprain our wrist or hurt, injure part of the body, we have inflammation that ends up happening. Well, that's great because it's a necessary body response to injury and infection, and it allows the body to heal. And there's two phases of inflammation. There's the attack and heal phase, which enlists the autoimmune system, which specializes in cells and tissues tissues and natural substances that protect the body from injury and prevent infection. And this is important because, hey, when we get hurt, when we, as an athlete, I hurt myself, or I used to, where sometimes we hurt ourselves doing simple things. And that allows us to understand that there's been trauma in that area. And then the second part of the phase is to regrow damaged tissue. And this starts the healing. This is when it gets very itchy and aggravating, and everybody's kind of like, you're just scratching at it all the time, and it burns, and it's just uncomfortable because this is regrowing. The old cells have to die. It has to be protected. It has to be enlisted. It has to be able to be contained, and the body has to heal it. And so usually during this phase is when we call acute. Acute is very short-lived. It's very immediate. It's very, it's red. It's hot. It's very uncomfortable. It's only lasting anywhere from hours until days. And so this is very important. Chronic is more long-term. This is serious, and this is where Crohn's disease is very very dangerous, or cancer, or any disease is because once something becomes chronic, then we become very healthy. So when we're in an acute stage, yes, it's, a lot of times it may feel uncomfortable, but a lot of times what ends up happening to us when things go chronic, if something happens that's very traumatic, we break a bone or something, or we hurt ourselves, we take care of ourselves, right? We're so quick to nurse ourselves, take a few days on the couch, rest the sprained ankle or whatever. But when it becomes chronic, this is very dangerous for a lot of people. And why is it dangerous for a lot of people? Because we tend to just push ourselves through. I used to be one of those. I used to be, let's bandage it up, put some ice on it, and go right through. Let's get back in the swimming pool. Let's get back on the softball field. Let's get back on these things and keep going. And this is the dangerous part about chronic, because what ends up happening is during chronic disease, it's an over response. Our body almost kind of shuts itself down in those areas, because how many of you deal with chronic pain? I mean, ever since the accident, I'm out going to the gym, doing my thing, riding my bike, and playing softball, but I always have pain in my hip. I always have pain in my back, and that whole section that had to be operated. Yes, I tough it through, but because our brain says, well, you know what, this is a chronic problem. Is it really necessary that I need to constantly send, stuff down there to heal? And absolutely not. And so what it does sometimes is it'll constantly be fighting the inflammation or creating inflammation, kind of let you know that this needs to be attended to. But it also shuts down. There's a point to the brain that says, well, this isn't a necessity anymore. And because we don't deem it a necessity, we'll shut down the pain receptors a little bit. We'll kind of let it be that dull, achy feeling where it's bearable, and we just kind of push on through our lives, and we move on. And immune mistakes the inflammation response as, like I said, as it's a no need. So it says, hey, it's not really a necessity if something happens and maybe I stub the left toe, and all of a sudden now that's a problem, and it takes away from the other side. And if you are, if you are one of those that push through disease, if you're one of those that push through your ailments, this is dangerous, and you need to stop this type of thinking. This is not something where you're being tough. One of the worst things I can't stand is when someone who's sick, especially in the contagious area with a cold or virus, and you're always contagious the first 48 hours before and after the first symptoms. So what that means is when you wake up and you say, I got that scratchy throat, or I don't feel good, or my stomach's a little nauseous, you've been contagious and spreading your virus 48 hours before and 48 hours after that. And the worst thing you can do, and very, in my mind, disrespectful thing, is to go into work because you don't want to miss a day, or because you want to push through and show that you're tough, show that you're a team player, and all these other things. And and all you're really doing is going to spread the disease and get people more sick. And for what reason? And so you have to be able to mentally take yourself out and say, you know what, my body is telling me something. My body's in pain. pain, I'm not feeling well, my throat itches, I got inflammation, I got pain in my abdomen, or whatever's going on in your body. Take a moment. Take a moment and step back. And because once it gets into chronic, I am telling you, doctors love chronic patients. You know why? Because they're a gold mine. You guys become a gold mine, and you can correct all these things. You can correct all these things right away. But we don't, someone, I have this conversation all the time, and I always give this example. How many of you have a car and you drive with the light on, the check engine light on, right? And you go, and I always laugh at this because I don't know how many cars, and I think even if you watch the Big Bang Theory, they joke around about this too. And, and so people drive around with these lights on, says, oh, you need to change this, or oil needs changing, or check engine light goes on. And you ignore it, and you keep driving, and then all of a sudden your car breaks down and you're surprised. Well, what happened? I don't know what happened. The warning signs were there. And the warning signs are the acute part of the disease, or the acute part of the injury, or anything acute. Once it comes on and the inflammation starts and the pain starts, this is the warning sign. This is your check engine light sign on. And you may be feeling a little bit better. You may want to tough it out. Maybe you have to go back to work because you have to pay bills or whatever. But once you start ignoring that sign, once you start ignoring that and pushing it into chronic, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. We'll be right back after these messages from the Life of Raina.
A message from the Life of Raina. We live in a world faced with many tough challenges. Our lives become chaotic and filled with disaster ever so quickly, most of the time before we even realize. Our issues beat down our mental mindset, and an imbalance of emotions become prevalent. The Life of Raina is dedicated to helping people on the deepest spiritual level. Miss Raina, the creator of Transcendental Development and Growth, works on your core issues and finds the solutions which allow you to break free from the emotional bondages of life, helping you achieve the life you've always wanted to live. Isn't it time that you lived life for you? Call the Life of Raina, 561-846-2190, and schedule your appointment today. That's 561-846-2190. Or email thelifeofraina@icloud.com.
Okay, we are back. If you'd like to give us a call, let me see the number. I almost forgot the number. It's 561-623-9429. Web chat us on the w4cy.com or download the app. And you're listening to Transcendental Transformation. Tonight's show is about Crohn's disease. And did you know that science actually links gum disease to cardiovascular disease? Did you know that disease happens right here in the mouth? This is where it starts. And in Chinese medicine, one of the things I absolutely loved and was fascinated by Chinese medicine was that you don't even need to take stats with people. You could look at their tongue, you could look at their teeth, you could look at their gums, you could look at their eyes and their nose, take their pulse, and you can tell everything about the person. And when I first started Oriental medicine, I was like, okay, how can you tell? And I would be amazed by these doctors. They'd say, stick out your tongue. And they'd say, this is how you feel every day. This is what goes through your mind. And I'd be like, and I was amazed. I was like, because, I've heard this before that, disease starts in the mouth. How you take care of your mouth, how, because everything starts to break down with the amylase. Everything starts in the mouth. So digestion starts in the mouth. And when they said that, and then they say, oh, well, it's linked. And I said, okay, well, yeah, maybe. But it wasn't until I got into Oriental medicine that it really made sense to me. Because if you look at the gums, how many of you brush your teeth and your gums bleed? You don't really floss. I'm not a big idea of flossing every day. I think that pushes the gums down, recedes, and makes availability for food and stuff to get caught in there. I'm a big advocate of oil pulling, especially with raw and filtered coconut oil. Absolutely love it. I make my own toothpaste out of all that stuff. And because I understand the importance of oral care now. And, and a lot of people don't think, well, they say, oh, well, yeah, okay, maybe, or maybe you say, yeah, brushing your teeth is healthy for you and all that stuff. But the mouth does tell all. And when you have inflammation in your teeth, I mean, remember back in the, I mean, all of us, but you remember how you've been hurt. The story is told that, that people would check the teeth to see if they're healthy. Well, that's what goes on. You can tell the health of somebody by their mouth. And it's the same with their tongue. It's the same with the color of the gums and everything. And so hidden inflammation happens inside the mouth. And you could tell because if your gums bleed, if they're kind of hot all the time, kind of red and fiery, and, you floss a little bit and again, blood comes out. These are signs that we're having problems with health. This is the first sign. And so I always say, make sure you take care of your teeth. And I'm not saying going to the dentist or whatever, but and this starts with food. And we're going to get into food in a little bit, but hidden inflammation, what is hidden inflammation? What causes it? Where is the cause of it? And so hidden inflammation appears in many, many different forms of the body. One of them is heart disease. Heart disease is a form of inflammation. How many of you know or have somebody, or maybe yourself, that maybe is on the obese side or has diabetes and both? Now, that's a form of inflammation. That's a form of hidden inflammation. How about depression? If, a lot of you know that I've through my whole life, I've always dealt with chronic depression. Actually, the past 3 months, I've been dealing with it. And the first thing I started to attack is I said, there's got to be some inflammation in my body someplace, maybe, and I've been a little lax lately because I've been, doing my softball thing, drinking a little bit more beer than usual. And all of a sudden I notice this change in my body, and I'm very sensitive to inflammation in my body. But depression, is a sign that you may have inflammation in your body. Allergies, rheumatoid arthritis. If anyone has allergies or rheumatoid arthritis, how bad does that hurt? It's hard. It's hard to breathe. It's, you get outbreaks on yourself. Rheumatoid arthritis, you can't move your joints, your fingers, they're inflamed. This is inflammation at its best. If you have dull, achy pain on a constant basis, then this is inflammation. If you're ignoring it, their body is telling that you have hidden inflammation, that there's a problem in here that you need to take care of. And you know what the big one of inflammation is cancer. Cancer is hot, stagnant inflammation in the body. It stagnates the body. The body has to move. Everything in the body has to flow. It has to move out. It has to be able to do its job. And so when we eat poorly, when we don't exercise, this is why exercise and massage and stuff like this is so important to the body, because those fluids have to move. The lymphatic system has to move. All this stuff, all the toxins in your body have to move. And so when things don't move, the energy stagnates inside the body and localizes at some point, and cancer develops. It's not a mystery how cancer starts. I am constantly baffled, by our country that refuses to see. It's like it's a surprise. Cancer starts, Crohn's disease starts, all these diseases start, but I have no clue where. People, we are in an age of information. We are in an age of knowledge. You can go on Google, and I'm not saying you should get your degree on Google because there's a lot of opinions out there. But you can go on Google and look up anything. You can look up anything you want and find out the information. And we have enough shows on TV. All these alternative medicine doctors now are coming out and saying all these different things. And so we have enough knowledge to understand that disease is caused by not only our environmental factors, but through our eating habits. And you have to take responsibility for this. This is why, yes, we all have a genetic disposition. We all have something, we get from our parents. And let me tell you something, parents. Especially for women, if you're thinking about becoming pregnant, or that you are pregnant, and you are still putting in things like McDonald's or heating plastic up inside a microwave, or eating food that's dead, you are giving these nutrients to your child. And, things like diabetes 1, when they're coming out with all these new diseases. I mean, think about 30 years ago. When I was born, 40 years ago, a lot of these diseases didn't exist. Or if they were very small. They were very minute. And now all of a sudden, diseases everywhere. Why? Because the microwave came out. Why? Because the aluminum cans came out. All the chemicals, all the plastics, all the shampoos, all the toxicity, the fluorides in the water are, and so I really, yes, each one of us, like I said, has a genetic disposition that, yes, we have something, but it isn't triggered until environmental and eating habits trigger it. And so you can combat, if your family, if you have a history of heart disease or diabetes or cancer, that doesn't mean you have to get it. If you carry the same actions on as everybody else, then you are more likely going to get it. And, this is one of the reasons why when I talk about diabetes, I don't believe is genetic at all. I believe that diabetes is passed down the same horrible eating habits from one family to another. And why? Because I watched it with my family. My family is Hispanic and Italian. It's all pastas and sauces and deep fried stuff and just, that's the way they ate. And I watched, my dad even passed away from diabetes, kidney failure. I watched most of my family die of cancer. And they all had diabetes, and I said, what's the common link here? It's the same with Crohn's disease. What is the common link here? And I watched everyone's diet, and I said, it's their eating habits. They're smoking, they're drinking, it's all this stuff. And that's actually what propelled me into getting into alternative medicine. That is what propelled me. If it wasn't for watching my dad slowly kill himself and my family slowly kill themselves through their eating habits, I don't know where I would be. I would probably be like them. But I said, you know what? I don't want to suffer their fate. I don't want to do that. I don't want to live each day taking pills and medication. And you know what? Crohn's disease is the same thing. They say, oh, let's take surgery. Oh, we'll just cut that part of the small intestine out on you. We'll just cut that part out. Right? There's no problem. But that still doesn't cure it. Why? Because Crohn's disease can spread all over. It can be in certain areas all over. And it doesn't have to be in one section. And still, if you're constantly putting in acidic foods, if you're constantly smoking, if you're constantly putting in these things that are causing the pH of your body to turn acidic, you're going to keep developing it. I mean, here in Florida, we have, it's plastic surgery heaven. I mean, and I'm for it. I have no problem against it. But, if you're going to, I know a lot of people that don't want to lose weight, they'd rather get tummy tucks. And then all of a sudden they just go out, keep eating their same foods, and then they gain all the weight back and they don't understand why. And it's like, people, we have to start looking at our diets. We have to start making choices that are smarter. You guys are smart. You guys are so insanely smart. I know you are. But you cannot no longer blame it on genetics. That's a cop-out. Even if you're predisposed to a genetic, a genetic defect, that doesn't mean that you have to succumb to that genetic defect. Only if you choose to constantly eat and drink, or smoke, or put these things into your body. Even silly, women, and I tell you same thing. Our makeup is totally toxic. I very rarely wear makeup, and there's a reason for that. Of course I go with all the mineral stuff, but did you know if you actually read the ingredients on makeup, and most women cake it on all day, did you know that most makeup is so toxic to the body that it actually causes autoimmune disease right away, like within months? I mean, some of the makeup that's coming out right now is highly toxic. And yet we spread it on our face every single day because maybe we have a pimple, or maybe because we think we don't look good without it. And so the truth is, people, I know you don't want to hear this. I know that you don't, Crohn's disease, IBS, any of these diverticulitis, diabetes. I know that a lot of you probably don't want to hear, yes, Miss Raina, we've heard it all before. We've heard diet, 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 diet. But it is true. It is so true that you have to understand that the number one cause to disease, especially like Crohn's disease, is your diet and environmental factors. If you're one of those that work in a factory and you're constantly polluted, I mean, your skin absorbs, your lungs absorbs, and then it's put through the blood system and into your cells. We have to start thinking about this stuff. And so what are the signs and symptoms of Crohn's disease? Well, one of the biggest problems is constant diarrhea. I know a lot of people, and it's hot, it burns, and a lot of people hate to go to the bathroom that have Crohn's disease. They even have rectal bleeding because why? What is Crohn's disease? It's inflammation, and there's ulcers inside the colon, and they're bleeding, they're popping. And this is painful. Any part of any part of the colon or any part of the small intestine that that starts to be eaten away by inflammation and the attack of the immune system, it hurts. And so, of course, you're going to have blood because it's the blood seeping out. You have a hole in your colon. You have a hole in your small intestine and it's bleeding out. and this is a huge warning sign. If you have constant diarrhea or even constant constipation, this is a big sign of health issue. If you go to any Chinese medicine doctor and tell them you have constant constipation or constant diarrhea, their eyes are going to light up. And they're going to say, wow, okay, we got something serious, because your stool, believe it or not, tells you a lot about it. That's why the doctors ask about it. I mean, I know a lot of times it's embarrassing, even for me, or any Oriental medicine doctor or anybody, any regular doctor. What's the thing that they ask you? How's your stool? How's your urine? Why? Because that tells you. And so if you're having heat that's coming out and it's constant diarrhea and it's hot and it's loose and it's watery, this is a huge sign. If you have an urgent need to move the bowels or abdominal cramping, again, remember where it's at, where it could be placed at. And so if you have constant pain, remember, pain is always an indication that something is wrong inside. And so don't ignore those. How about a sensation of incomplete evacuation? Say like you go to the bathroom and you try and you go and then all of a sudden you feel like you gotta go again, like just something's always in there. Well, that's because the body's not doing what it needs to do. Other signs and symptoms are, and these are a little bit lesser, but often sometimes if you're prone to fevers, if you have loss of appetite. Why? Because a lot of times the body is not pushing through what it needs to push through. Loss of weight. Why would I say loss of weight? Well, if you're not absorbing nutrients, it's evacuating them, right? If the body doesn't absorb what it needs, it evacuates it. And so a lot of times you will lose weight. And of course, if we're not absorbing nutrients, what next? We have fatigue. We have loss of, for women, we have loss of menstrual cycle. Even our other parts of the body can be affected by this. How about constant joint pain? How about liver inflammation? This could even Crohn's disease can also develop into osteoporosis and skin problems, eye problems. Why? Because for what I just said, no nutrients, excretion, constant inflammation. The body's attacking itself. And so mouth ulcers, heat. Anytime there's mouth ulcers, anytime there's a lot of heat, the body tries to push it out. And that comes in bumps and ulcers all over the body. And so if you're one of those that have these problems all the time and you're pushing down alcohol and you're pushing down hot, spicy foods, I mean, that's like taking a bonfire and saying, hey, I want to put this fire out and squirting lighter fluid all over it and wondering why it's not going out. And of course, it leads to anemia. Because if you're losing blood and you're not absorbing nutrients, so the spleen can't make blood and the liver's not filtering the blood and the kidney's not filtering the blood, what's going to happen? Of course, you're going to become anemic. This is why poor nutrition is so important. This is why poor nutrition, to understand what your choices are, is so important. When you have no absorption of nutrients, this is what's going to happen. And, if you follow my social media, I've even told you I've been fatigued. And I eat pretty well, but I have to figure out, I had to sit there and I had to say, what's going on? Well, my sleep has been interrupted. I had to break all these things down. Even my stool has been kind of back and forth, and all these different things. I've been depressed for the past 3 months. What is going on? And so I had to look at it and I had to say, wow, these are signs. These are major signs that I cannot push down. I can't just push it away and say, oh yeah, who cares? I've been constipated I had a friend one time that was constipated. They would only go about once a week to every 2 weeks. And I would look at him like, what? You only defecate only once a week to almost 2 weeks? And a lot of times you have to take laxatives. This person's on their way to cancer. And of course, I couldn't tell them that because, that freaks them out. But if you're not defecating and you're only doing all those toxins are reabsorbing. And and this is a warning sign, but a lot of people don't care. You have a choice, people, that you have to learn to care about you. You have to learn. If you every day you have a choice to pick up that junk food at the store, I make it a point to buy mostly on the outskirts of Whole Foods. When I go, I buy mostly on the outside. Why? Because everything on the outside is fruits and vegetables and fresh. Everything on the inside aisles is processed. That's where you're going to find things that are machine made, handmade, things that have additives, preservatives, all these different things. And so your fried foods, your processed meats, all cause heat in the body. When in Chinese medicine, when we have someone that has cold in their body and has deficiency, why do you think chicken soup is so good for someone that has a cold? Because it's warming. It's nutrient. You're not supposed to eat chicken soup every single day, or you're not supposed to eat chicken every single day. Actually, chicken produces arachidonic acid in the body. Or actually, it's in the chicken, and that goes in the body. And this is over tonifying. These are the things, we think, oh, well, white meat's better than red meat, so I'll just eat a ton of chicken or a ton of turkey and call it a day because, hey, I'm getting my source of protein. And this is the country that we live in. But, if you study fruits and vegetables, if you study plants, you can find huge amounts of protein. I mean, one of the biggest things that I've seen, and I'm so happy that America's finally waking up to it, is I'm seeing all these muscle and fitness magazines, and everyone's proud that they're vegan. And they're just as big or bigger or more lean than the people that are meat eaters. And actually, now they're trying to compare them. Who's leaner? Who's stronger? Who has more endurance? And they're finding out people who are on a plant-based diet have more endurance. They have better health. They lose weight quicker. They gain more muscle quicker. I mean, of course, it's a science, and a lot of you are going to say, oh, well, you don't get the vitamin B12 or blah, blah, blah. But you can get it in other ways. But watch your dyes, people. Dyes really do a number on the intestinal tract. Dyes really do a number. Anything that's fried, anything that's processed, anything with dyes, high fructose corn sugar. Corn sugar and high fructose corn syrup, or high fructose corn syrup and corn syrup are the same thing. If you look at a label and it says high fructose corn syrup and corn syrup, it's actually the very same thing. They've just found a way to put it in twice. And a lot of people don't know that. And corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup is very bad for the body. All this stuff will cause the inflammation. It lights you on fire, and it goes pretty quick. I mean, to state that over, like I said, over 800,000 people in America, young adults 15 to 35, have Crohn's disease, or have some type of IBS or some type of bowel disease. I mean, this is a big wake-up call. I know a lot of, I just don't understand why we still choose. Even though we know this stuff is bad for us, I don't know why we still choose it. Dude, let me ask you guys this, and I want you to write me in and ask it. What is the thing that's stopping you? When you make those choices, yes, we've already discussed sometimes it's money, and I get that. But with all the information that you have out here today, and you know that McDonald's isn't healthy for you, and you know that the Slurpees from 7-Eleven with all the dyes and the sugar isn't healthy for you, but we still get them anyways. And you know you should eat the healthier foods, the more plant-based diet, but we still choose, even if it's on sale, even if we can eliminate, say like I could snap my fingers and have a world of plant-based foods just as cheap as the burgers that we get. What is still the thought process of it? And if we sit there and we say, plant-based diets don't taste as good, or healthy food don't taste good, that's garbage, people. That's not an excuse, because you know what? Your tongue is so desensitized from all the sugars and starches and everything that, yes, at first, maybe a salad or something healthy may not taste as well. But I'm telling you, once you go through that period where all the sugars and everything gets out of your system, I guarantee you, like I crave salads. I crave certain foods. Like things like I hated beets. When I was younger, I hated beets. They tasted so nasty. And now when I'm feeling blood deficient, when I'm feeling tired, and one of the things that I posted on my videos is I'm doing beet juice again, because why? It produces blood, it produces energy. And so my body craves that now. Now, if I were to go to the store and get a Hostess cupcake or a Twinkie, I'd probably take one bite of it, and the sugar it would be an instant, my mouth would reject it. You can't, we got to stop blaming each other. We got to stop blaming our parents. Yes, true, our parents may have pushed us into it. When we were younger, Fruity Pebbles was the cereal to go to, or Apple Jacks, can of SpaghettiOs was the thing. But we're adults now, people. We're adults, and we have to start making these decisions. And if you have any, if you have any knowledge of this, and you have children of your own, think about what you're passing on to them. You are passing the same habits on. And so if you want your child to have better health, better eating habits, and develop that, then start changing it now. You don't have to throw out all the food right away and do a full shift on. The kids would be like, wow, what are you doing? But you have to start thinking, yes, let's start slowly switching. And even you too, slowly switch. It's hard to just give up everything all at once. But Crohn's disease is very painful, people. It's a very hard disease, but it doesn't mean that it cannot be reversed. You have to be able to switch it. And so what are some of the things, because I see that we only have about 4 minutes here. So what are some of the things that help with Crohn's disease? Well, probiotics, obviously, right? Probiotics, it gives a good bacteria, reduces the symptoms of Crohn's disease. Fish oil. Fish oil is huge with omega-3. It's anti-inflammatory, plus helps with the brain and all sorts of good stuff. Fish oil is amazing. Aloe vera is cold. Aloe vera is number one. Now, this is tricky, because I don't want you guys running out there to go buy aloe vera, because especially if you have, loose stool and you drink aloe vera, man, you're not even going to make it to the bathroom by the time you even, because aloe vera will create loose stool if drank or eaten too much. You have to be able to dose it, and this is why you need to see your proper physician that's knowledgeable in alternative medicine. Chamomile reduces it. Peppermint is antiviral, antibacterial, and also helps with the inflammation of Crohn's disease. One of the things that you're going to hear, and this is very important, people, I want you to listen to this, is when you have Crohn's disease, they tell you no fruits. No fruits, no fiber, anything with fiber, even vegetables, nothing. But you need the fruit juice in order to reverse Crohn's disease. Because the Crohn's disease, the fruit will reverse it. But what we have to do is we have to be able to juice it. Juicing takes away the fiber. Yes, if you try to eat the fiber, you will have, oh my God, you will be cursing my name. But everybody who has gone through the juicing process, yes, you'll have discomfort, because whenever healing starts taking place. And I know a lot of you Western medicine doctors that may be listening to this show, you may have a disagreement with this, because we've been taught no fruits or vegetables. But if you think about all the nutrients in fruits or vegetables, especially juicing, you take away the fiber. And it's been shown in studies that people who are juicing with Crohn's disease have shown reversal and have shown new growth of cells, because you're giving the body what it needs. If you're eliminating all those wonderful nutrients that all these things have, that how can you reverse anything? Himalayan salt. I did a show a long time ago, and I swear up and down by this. Himalayan salt has 84 trace minerals. It restores the pH of the body. This is very important. And it helps with muscle cramping, muscle fatigue, tiredness, mental fog. It helps with blood sugar. I'd make a salt. I take if you want to know the recipe, write it to me. I take a thing of a mason jar, and I put in salt. I put in a amount of salt, and I put a special type of water in it, and I dissolve it, and I take a teaspoon every single day. And I've noticed a huge difference already. Baking soda and lemon. Baking soda and lemon. How many of you have heard recently of the powers of baking soda and lemon? Baking soda and lemon are alkaline to the body. It will make sure that it settles the stomach acid, and it makes sure it helps pump oxygen through the body. It supplies oxygen, and plus you'll feel more awake. You won't feel as fatigued. Maybe you can go out for that walk. So people, you have to remember that, if you're sick, your body's acidic. Plain and simple. There's no magical science to it. You can look it all up. You can ask Western medicine, Eastern medicine, it doesn't matter. Make sure that we change our bodies to alkaline or slightly alkaline. And it's all about our choices, people. All right, everybody, that is tonight's show. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to follow us, you can follow us on our Facebook at facebook.com/Transcendental Transformation Radio Show. Follow us on our website at soulandspiritguide.com. Email us at transcendentaltransformations@gmail.com. Don't forget to visit the W4CY website. And always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you, and have a wonderful evening.